Hello and welcome to Anglesey for the 10th running of Race of Remembrance. We're here on what is actually a very fair November day. The rain is keeping off, we are forecast that tomorrow, and the theme here is perseverance. Not only is it the name of the trophy that the drivers will be fighting for in the Race to Remembrance, it really signifies what you do in the military and in motorsport as a racing driver. Now, the first race we have got forming up behind us now is something that is completely new for this year. We are bringing you a capacity grid for the Race of Remembrance Clubsport Trophy race. I've got Scott Woodward here alongside me. Scott, this race is an absolute humdinger to get us started today.
Yeah, the main event comes a little bit later on, a couple of hours, but we've got something a bit special. We haven't actually ever broadcast this race before, but it's great that we've got almost a capacity grid. We've got a great front row of a Lotus Elise and a BMW Z4. Liam Crilly, who's a multiple-time Club Sport race winner, definitely wants to try and get the special honours here, but there's a great variety, as there always is in Club Sport. There's Audi TTs, there's Minis, there's Mazda MX5s, there's Renault Clios, there's Volkswagen Scirocco's, there's a Porsche Boxster on the grid, there's BMWs, there's Honda Civics, everything you could imagine. If you're an avid follower of Club Sport Trophy, you know exactly what this kind of grid is like. 45 minutes of kind of mini endurance pit stop racing coming up to really kick things off in the best possible way. And of course, we'll talk all things ROR as we progress with the likes of the Biathlon of Foolishness, which is coming up, which is going to be particularly quite fun, which we'll get to that later on. But of course, on top of that, we've got 12 hours of racing ahead of us, some 55 teams. Should be an amazing spectacle, some great teams in the mix, and no one's certain to be a victor at any point in this time. All the classes are pretty much up in the air in terms of who could take home the glory. But before that, as a perfect warm-up for ROR, we've got the Club Sport Trophy racing. With a grid like this, it should be pretty impressive.
What do you reckon? Liam Crilly to get the honours first time out. He's racing later on as well.
He is pretty well ensconced in Club Sport Trophy. He's won a few races before in the BMW Z4. That's a really well sorted machine. The Lotuses, though, can pose a bit of a threat. We've got Neil and Lloyd Huggins alongside him on the front row, but also I'd watch for the two cars behind. Those Audi TT Cup cars which race in the BRSCC Championship, particularly Andrew Dyer, they can be quite formidable. Another car I'm also going to watch out for is back on row 4. That's Brian Chandler in his Mark IV Mazda MX5, the purple and chrome machine just towards the back on the 4th row of the grid. There's a few cars in the mix that are also from the armed forces, from the likes of the RAF. We've got the Honda Integra of Alex Smith. There's all sorts of great cars in the mix, and so I think it should be a grid that everyone here for BRSCC, for Lindsay Close, the coordinator for Club Sport Trophy, and everyone that's involved should be proud of. Also, we've got a few Mazda MX5 regulars from their Mark 1 championships, a couple of City Car Cup cars in the mix as well. This should be a pretty fascinating race from start to finish, and a perfect way to kick off Race of Remembrance Saturday before the main event later on.
Definitely the best way to kick off. So grab yourself a cup of tea or a nice drink, sit back on the sofa and enjoy our first endurance race to kick off this Race of Remembrance weekend. It's time to hand over to the main man in the commentary box as the Bentley Bentayga safety car goes into place to lead this grid off. It's time to head up to the man, the legend himself, Mr. Paul Truswell, to take you through this first race.
Thank you very much, Rob Lewis and Scott Woodward down there on the grid, really getting the atmosphere of the Race of Remembrance weekend underway. We've already had qualifying this morning for these cars. They had a half-hour qualifying session. That's how they've come to be in the order they are now. As Scott and Rob were just saying, it'll be a rolling start behind the marvellous Bentley Bentayga safety car, which will be doing duty as well during the Race of Remembrance. It's not the only poppy car we've got here this weekend. We've got a preponderance of poppy cars, including the rather special Mazda, which was down at the Cenotaph yesterday, having its photograph taken, and I'm sure there's social media pictures of that as well. But the cars then, 38 of them due to be lined up on the grid, will be setting off very shortly indeed for their pace lap. It will be, as we were saying, a 45-minute mini endurance race, potential for a driver change, and it's a mandatory pit stop in any case for these cars. They have to stop between 15 minutes and half an hour into the 45-minute race. So in the middle 15 minutes of the race, everybody will have to be coming in for a pit stop. The pit stop will have to last 2 minutes at a minimum, during which time the driver change, if necessary, can take place. No refueling though. as Scott was saying, we've got Liam Crilly with the BMW Z4 Coupe on the front row of the grid on pole position, car number 12, and alongside him is the number 30 Lotus Exige, which Neil and Lloyd Huggins are sharing. That's car number 30. And then on the second row of the grid, we've got the two cars from the Audi TT Cup. Number 53 is Paul Bancroft in his Audi TT, and alongside him is number 15 Andrew Dyer, winner of the last time out at the Clubsport Trophy race. So as he was saying, a car not to be overlooked by any manner of means. So 53 and 15 on the second row of the grid. On the third row of the grid, we've got car number 46. This is the VW Golf of George Wright, and alongside him is the number 86 Adam Morrison Mini, one of 6 cars that's been entered by Track Scotland. And Adam Morrison then will be starting from the third row of the grid in car number 86. On the fourth row of the grid, we've got car number 58, another Audi TT, this one in the hands of Paul Hoggins. And alongside him, Brian Chandler, car 76, in the best of the Mazdas. He leads Class C for the less powerful cars. Ninth on the grid, the inside of the fifth row, is car 27, Lee Curry's Renault Clio. And then look out for VW Sirocco, Ben Walkinshaw, car number 501, on the outside, the right-hand side of row 5. Row 6 is car number 115. This is Colin Gillespie with Will Beach alongside him, driving in the all-white Porsche Boxster. And then alongside him is car number 83, the marvellous little Ginetta, looking like it's from a different era. It is the G20 Ginetta. Simon Frowen sharing with Mark Spong, and that's the 6th row. The 7th row is car number 150, and that's Andrew Stevens and Julian Hamer driving in their Mini, and alongside that is a very distinctive Honda Integra, car number 84 of Richard Smith and Fraser Gillen there in number 84. 8th row of the grid is number 91, the Novobilski pairing of Christoph and Richard, Elliot Novobilski. Then alongside him is Darren Dukes. Both of those cars, both of those teams running BMW Z4s, 91 and 177. Then on the 9th row of the grid, we've got car number 19. This is Andrew Stacey sharing with James Cameron. Now we understand that James is going to be starting in that car. James Cameron, the man behind Mission Motorsport, so he's out as the start driver in the car number 19, the Mini Cooper. And alongside him is Harry Hayler's Renault Clio, car number 4. And then the 10th row of the grid is car number 20, Daniel and Steve Cogswell's very distinctive Nissan Almera. And alongside him is number 88, Phil and Matthew Adcock in their BMW Compact. Safety car just about back from its rolling lap, pulls into the pit lane, and it will now be between Liam Crilly and the established, whether it was Neil or Lloyd Huggins who was driving in the car. So we're not quite sure who's driving the Lotus, but we'll say that it's Neil for the moment, and hopefully Rob Lewis down there will be able to clarify for them. The car's coming up then to the start, and it's a fast start from the third row of the grid as George Wright heads in towards target, trying to make up ground on the two inside of the two Audi TTs. He's made up one place there, getting up on the inside of the Audi TT, but I don't think he's managed to quite make up two. But George Wright having a great start there from the third row of the grid, and he's in 4th place as they turn through the banking for the first time and come back down towards Church. Liam Crilly has made the best start, and here it is who leads at the moment and pulling out his lead as they head down the back straight towards School and heading up towards Rocket for the first time. In 2nd place is the Lotus of the Huggins team going up there to Rocket, and then in 3rd place just tucked in behind. Oh, and there's a car there that's suddenly blown its engine. It's one of the RAF cars and pulls off to the right-hand side of the circuit there at Rocket in, and that was Scott, the car number 84.
Yeah, it's Alex Smith in the Honda Integra. Sad to see that he's pulled off and his Club Sport Trophy race is over before it's even begun. So the next time he will get back on track will be his stint in the main ROR race. But as expected in Club Sport Trophy, with so many different cars in so many different classes, everyone getting underway with a pretty fast pace, and it is that top two, Liam Cruddy's BMW Z4 and then the Huggins in the Lotus Elise, that are trying to set the pace. Into third place already has gone Andrew Dyer, and also watch out for that Tracks Scotland Mini that's got the K20 engine in that machine. He heads down towards the left-hander at the bus stop to end lap number 1 under racing conditions.
Alex Smith is out of his car. The car, as Scott was just saying there, comprehensively engine failure there. What I don't know is whether he's left any oil on the circuit or not, but yellow flags being displayed to warn the drivers of that car being parked just off the circuit, and we'll see at the end of the lap whether or not the safety car is going to be required or not, as the field come charging through at the end of their first racing lap. Liam Crilly had a lead of 2.1 seconds then over the Huggins Lotus Elise. Siege in second place. Andrew Dyer's Audi TT is in third, but coming under pressure there from Adam Morrison's Track Scotland Mini as they head through Stool, and just behind them is George Wright with the VW Golf as well. Those three cars very close together, Scott.
So Colin Gillespie's Porsche got it really out of shape on the run up to the King towards the Rocket complex, battling with Brian Chalmers' Mazda. They go wheel to wheel into the second part of the complex, and Morrison, meanwhile, you rightly said, was catching Andrew Dyer, and the Mini has slipped past the Audi now into third place, and now Andrew doesn't get a real chance to have a bit of respite because he's now got the competitive Golf in grey and yellow of George Wright on his tail as they come down through the corkscrew and onto the Tom Price straight. As off the road has gone one of our regular Class E runners in Club Sport. That is the, in fact, red flag in fact has been thrown. That was the Adcox and the BMW that went for the spin, but the red flag has been thrown. There's another car. I wonder, do I think possibly I think it's fluid, because Charles Gillespie's car was moving around a lot, and now I realise it's because the engine failure that Alex Smith has had looks like it's dropped some fluid down there. I saw Ben Wilkinshaw's Scirocco also go for a spin and was recovering up at the top of the complex, so I think some fluid's gone down. So to recover that and to clear it up, race has been stopped.
Yeah, that was my initial fear, was that when that engine went, then there was some fluid down, and yeah, the safety car wasn't required to deal with the car of Alex Smith that went off there on the first lap, the Honda Integra in the RAF colours, but it wasn't so much the fact that the car went off, but the fluid which has been dropped, and the marshals will be up there at Rocket having a look at the track. Because what they don't want is to have a situation where they've got fluid down, oil on the circuit, which then damages the track and leads to a delay with the later races, with the later race, I should say, the race of remembrance still to come. Cars have been parked at the bus stop, having observed the red flag and coming to a halt. Now, we'd had one complete racing lap. They were on their second racing lap when the red flag was issued, but my guess is that the grid will be formed up in its original order, and that will be bad news for Adam Morrison, who had made his way out from the third row of the grid into third place, because he'll have to take up his position back on position 6 on the grid. George Wright, who was going great guns as well with the VW Golf, he got himself up into 5th place, which is actually where he started on the grid, was 5th. But with Adam Morrison's progress, he'd managed to get himself ahead of one of the Audi TTs, but not both. So Liam Crilly is being waved forward, but not onto the grid hatchings, but rather on a dummy grid, and that's looking like the way they used to run Formula 1 races many years ago, where they had a dummy grid about 200 yards shy of where the actual grid would be. But they're being formed up in the original grid positions then, with Liam Crilly on pole position, sharing with Neil Huggins on the front row, so BMW, Lotus Exige on the front row. Then the second row cars, Paul at Bancroft and Andrew Dyer in their Audi TTs.
And I believe we can actually, whilst we've got this red flag going on at the moment, Paul, we can head down to our esteemed third commentator, which is Rob Lewis, who's down in pit lane, to see if he's got some stories on what's happening.
Just a quick explanation, folks. I've spoken to some of the marshals that are on standby here. The reason for the red flag, pure and simply oil on the racing line. A car has let go, going all the way down the back straight and up the hill onto the corners, directly onto the racing line. We've got to be a bit sensible. It's the start of the day and we've got a 12-hour race to go later on. So it's simple. Red flag the race, put some speedy dry down on the racing line, clear it all up and make sure that these 40-ish cars could get going again and finish off their Clubsport trophy race. It's all about safety here, I'm afraid, but because they've done so little laps into the race, they will form up on the original grid. So once again, Liam Crilly has got to get a demon start again, but for now, back up to the commentary box.
Okay, thanks very much, Rob. The other thing you can do whilst you're down there is just to, if you can, establish which of the Huggins it is in the number 30 Lotus Exige. I'm guessing it's Neil, but if you can confirm that for us, then that will make life a lot easier for us. We know the rest of the first 5 rows at least who's driving the car, because there's only one driver in them. It's up to the teams to decide whether they have one driver or 2 drivers. Obviously if they have 2, they can share the cost a little bit more evenly, but it may well be that many of them decide that they'll do it on their own. We're pretty sure that it's going to be James Cameron at the wheel of the number 19 Mini Cooper. At least he gave me the impression that he was going to be starting when he was up here in the commentary box earlier on. So we'll assume it's going to be him. So we've got Paul Bancroft and Andrew Dyer sharing the second row. Andrew Dyer in the almost rainbow striped Audi TT on the outside of row 1, the first corner target being a left-hander here at Anglesey, so pole position is on the left-hand side of the circuit. That's where Liam Crilly has lined up, coming into position a little bit late on parade. There was Ben Walkingshaw's VW Sirocco. Not exactly clear why he was so far back.
Sorry.
In fact, he came through 11th at the end of lap 1, so should have been all right.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, the marshals out on the circuit are laying down the cement, which speedy dry is what Rob called it. It's basically just a cement dust, which is designed to dry the oil up, but also to minimise any damage to the circuit, because there's a tendency otherwise for the oil to rub away the surface of the track.
Should give our first shout out to the marshals and officials for all their hard work, not just today but also yesterday when they were testing, and also we had practice and daytime and nighttime qualifying to set the grid for the main event, and of course all this morning as well. There was a really nice sort of team photo for the officials and marshals just on the bank outside the bus stop here with the special Mazda ROR kind of poppy car that's here this weekend, and also one of the runyourfleet.com BRSCC rescue units. Really nice team photo which I was privileged to be a part of, and it's a big shout out to all of their hard work for doing stuff like this, because as we say often but almost don't say it enough in many cases, without the marshals and volunteers and everyone involved, genuinely motorsport events like this couldn't happen. So full stop.
It's a team event, isn't it, Scott?
It is.
The racers couldn't go racing without the marshals to officiate, and equally the marshals wouldn't have any racing to watch. It wouldn't be for the racers, so between them they make a great effort. And if you want to be part of the marshalling team, then just go and have a look at marshals.co.uk, or the other alternative I suppose is the BRSCC's Driven by Racing event.
I didn't want to make it a plug, but I'm glad it's a nice lead in for that one. Yes, good point. Yeah, there is Driven by Racing next weekend, which is at Silverstone. If people will allow me to mention it for a second, thank you, Paul. Which is, and that's a key way for you to, if you want to get involved and interested in marshalling, you can head to Silverstone. Tickets are free. There's no kind of They're free, but it's just apply for them. You can come down both days and check out not just race cars and even have a go yourself in any kind of race car, maybe a car like this that's on the Clubsport grid or any of our established championships and series. You can get test drives or passenger rides. You can even take your arts test if you want to. We do that in conjunction with our friends at the Motorsport School, and we also give tasters and train people that want to marshal, to become a clerk of the course, to be a scrutineer, to do rescue training, all sorts that we want to try and get involved in. So if you do want to fancy just getting involved in motorsport, finding a route into British motorsport, and even just seeing what BRSCC does as a whole, then get yourself to Silverstone 16th and 17th of November next weekend. Tickets are still available. Just head to the BRSCC website and do so. And that's enough plugging different things when we're here for RRR. So, but nice lead in nonetheless, Paul. Appreciate it.
Well, BRSCC, one of the key clubs in the UK organising motorsport, and as I've said many times, the interest in British motorsport at the club level is very high indeed, and I'm never cease to be astonished at how much interest there is in club level motorsport. As Rob and Scott were saying, down on the grid, 38 cars in the Clubsport Trophy, 55 lined up to take part in the Race of Remembrance at this time of year, this far away from home, because let's face it, the Anglesey circuit isn't very close to anybody's home. No disrespect to those who live out here, but it's a long trek for a lot of drivers. A lot of teams have come a long way to be here, and it's a reflection of the superb support that British club racing gets, and we're very grateful to the BRSCC as well as the other clubs that are involved in British club racing, that they make it possible for us to enjoy so much racing. Meanwhile, the marshal's hard at work, and also the Anglesey circuit staff ensuring that the oil cement is nicely rubbed in and will provide hopefully a little bit more grip, but it will be the single pace lap which they get behind the Bentley safety car, which will then be their only chance to experience just how much the circuit has been affected by that trail of oil which the Honda Integra left. The Honda now being brought in on the back of a flatbed recovery unit. Alex Smith having been the driver, which is not a result that they would have wanted for that car on that opening lap, but sadly it was a fairly comprehensive engine failure which led to that huge trail of oil being left on the, well, it's not so much the racing line as they go along past school, but more when they get into the braking area at Rocket Inn, the uphill left-hander, where they really need to get the car stopped as quickly as they can. And again, you only need to be unsighted for a moment and you get yourself onto that slippery stuff, and basically there was really just only one option, was to stop the race, get the oil dealt with, and then getting us underway again once the oil has been treated.
So Colin Gillespie, we saw that battle briefly on camera between himself and Brian Chandler. I think he was one of the lucky ones, and I wasn't sure if just he was carrying too much speed through the right-hander at school and up towards Rocket Complex, but his car was a little bit sort of squirming around, and now we know there was fluid down there. That's the reason why he lost a little bit of traction, but he was a little nervy for a split second, but thankfully he survived, and he will take the restart back from his original grid spot of what looks to be, I think, row 7, so back on the grid for him in the white Porsche Boxster 3.2 that sits in Class D. Quite well for a Class D car to be fairly up through high in the order.
Row 6 is where he's supposed to be.
Row 6.
Yes, he is on row 6.
Yes, you're right.
The grid not quite side by side as it ought to be. Lovely new painted grid markings on the circuit. Whether they've been put in especially for the Race of Remembrance, I'm not sure, but shall we say they're not being used by any of the teams apart from the front row. Anyway, it's the only way they can get all 38 cars onto the grid, or 37 we've got left now, with the absence of Alex Smith's Honda Integra, which should have been on the 7th row of the grid, car number 84. But let's say he obviously is going to be not restarting. Everybody else, I think, will be. Horse vehicles still present there at school, although one recovery unit returns. The clerk of the courses, well, that's Scott's Jaguar they've got down there, still there. I say it's Scott's only because he used it to drive up here the week.
I can assure you it's firmly BRSCC. It's not mine, even though I might be the custodian of it to and from race circuits. It's definitely BRSCC's, but it's a rather nice cruiser up and down the motorway when you go to and from circuits, and it's quite a privilege to drive that kind of car. So that's making its way to pit then. Wonderfully supplied by Run Your Fleet, which you've mentioned, so thank you to them. That's been in the club since about 2021, so that's about kind of 4th year into the partnership between the club and the fleet management company, so appreciate them for providing that. That's one of a number of cars here that's providing service for the event. And we have to shout out to Bentley as well, because Bentley of course supplying this really fantastic looking Bentayga safety car, which is adorned with poppies, and I think even they're sort of emanating from where the Normandy landing as well.
I was going to say there's a kind of map of Northern Europe on there.
Yeah.
If you kind of close your eyes a little bit. Anyway, we've just been shown the 5-second board to get us underway again at the second time of asking. It will still be a 45-minute race, only instead of starting at the scheduled time, it'll start a little bit later than that. But let's say we're still going to be having a 45-minute race, and the time will start when the car comes through at the end of this pace lap. So one further pace lap, and then the full 45 minutes. 15 minutes of racing before the circuit will show the pit window open board at start finish, and that means that cars can come into the pit lane at that point. Whether they will choose to do so, whether they'll stay out for closer to half distance, or some of the sensible money is on staying out until the very end of the pit window, just in case we get a safety car into it, because there's no penalty for pitting under safety car in the Clubsport Trophy. So the 2-minute pit stop is valid whether you're in the whether you're within the safety car or whether it's green flag running.
So we're just making its way around single file, I think, trying to keep away from the section. You can see the point where which Alex Smith's engine ceased to exist anymore, and of course the trail of quick dry that's been laid down by the marshals of the which is again really nice work from everyone involved to get that done in quick time, genuinely no pun intended, as they make their way through. Of course the full international layout for Anglesey being utilised. Of course there are there's a few different layouts, but the two most commonly used ones are the international layout for this weekend and the coastal layout, which instead of turning left off onto the extended part down the Tom Price Straight and up towards the hairpin, they would turn left and down what's aptly named the corkscrew. But the full circuit in use this weekend. Cars now will start to get around to that point, just coming out through Peel now. I imagine when they get towards that Tom Price Straight, they'll just start to once again form up in that neat 2x2 formation on that rolling start. Once the Bentley Bentayga safety car pulls in, racing will get underway once again. It's another chance for the Incredi to try and get a decent start. The Huggins in the motor will try and want to go with them, and I'd say also watch out for the likes of Adam Morrison, who had that really clean start in the Mini with the K20 engine. He was up to fourth place, and hassling Andrew Dyer for third. And then the other couple of cars that came through that were fighting with the likes of Brian Chandler and Colin Gillespie's Porsche. So
the other car which had a good start was George Wright, wasn't it, Scott?
Yes, it was.
The VW Golf from the third row of the grid. So two cars on the third row who gave notice of their intentions in the earlier start, in giving a clue as to what we might see happening this time. Of course, the problem, as you described it, with everybody avoiding the cement dust as they went up towards Rocket, is that none of them actually know whether there'll be grip on that cement or not. So they're going to arrive there on the first racing lap with a bit of an interesting job in front of them. Anyway, the Bentley has pulled into the pit lane. Liam Crilly is side by side now with Neil Huggins as they turn through the bus stop. Then the two Audi TTs side by side on the second row of the grid, and then George Wright and Adam Morrison on the third row as the lights go out. And once again, a very good start indeed from Liam Crilly. He heads to target in the lead of the race, and running a little bit wide on the exit there was Andrew Dyer. Gets the car 2 wheels onto the grass and loses a couple of positions as he does so. So up into third place comes Adam Morrison. George Wright trying to hang on there on the outside line with VW Golf, and does hang on but loses out, goes back to 5th place. But Adam Morrison there again in very racy mood, getting up alongside, putting 2 wheels alongside the Audi TT of Paul Bancroft, and storms past him in a straight line. Much better straight line speed there for the Mini, and kicks up the dust as he goes up towards the braking area for Rocket. Turns into Rocket in third place. So Adam Morrison then, he got up into third place earlier on, up into third place again then for the Mini as they turn along the skyline. Somebody's gone off there at Rocket. In fact, there's 2 cars off. That's
Julian Hamer and Andrew Stevens. The other one's 92, which I think is Chris Stone's Honda Civic that's gone off, and they've both had 2 separate incidents of Rocket. I think the Stone Civic has gone off in sympathy of the Mini which went around. There was a few cars that were diving down the inside of each other up towards the Rocket complex. So that caused, of course, the casualties. That Mini had taken at least 1 class win in the Clubsport Trophy previously, but 92 is back underway, so through he goes.
Yeah, that's Rob Phillips and Richard Winnie driving the Honda Civic. It's changed the number. It was originally in the program as 176.
I see.
But they've had a change of number. Leaders coming across the line to complete the first racing lap, with Liam Crilly again in a comfortable position at the end of lap 1, 2.2 seconds ahead.
George Wright has stopped at the final corner, reason being not quite clear, but I spotted it on the screen as he was coming through. So one of the favourites that you pointed out, Paul, that was going to be in good form, unfortunately that car has, for whatever reason, ground to a halt on the outside of the last corner. Now, he's managed to refire it.
Gets going again, and is going to resume in about 28th position, I'm going to guess. We'll see where he actually comes through.
23rd by the looks of it.
Okay, so
some work to do.
Guess wrong, but yeah, so George Wright got lots of overtaking to do now. Another car who's a long way back there, he's going to have to make up ground. That's the 150 Mini Cooper that you described having its moment up at Rocket. It's got going again. Andrew Stevens sharing with Julian Hamer, but up at the front there's another car pulling off along the back straight between Church and School is number 27.
Lee Curry's Mini Renault Clio. But also we had the pit lane 848, that was Matt Crozier's MX5, just saw on stream, that was pulling into pit lane. So unfortunately issues for that car. That's a BRSCC MX5 Championship spec machine.
Luckily we've got 38 starters because the attrition rate so far has been fairly severe. But we're up at the front of the field, really then having made that good start. He's now coming back down from the hairpin in towards the bus stop for the second time, and continues to extend the margin of his lead over the Huggins Lotus Exige in second place. In third place is Adam Morrison's Mini. In fourth place is Paul Bancroft with the Audi TT. Then there's a bit of a gap back to Brian Chandler's Mazda going well there in 5th place. In 6th place is now the 115 car, the Colin Gillespie Porsche Boxster. The all-white car has moved up into 6th place, and then Andrew Dyer recovering a little bit in 7th place, or having to recover in 7th place, having been elbowed up back by slower cars, or by the faster cars, but who was starting behind him on the grid.
I think that the Gillespie, I think that's Will Beach, from a TCR UK racer, who is in the Porsche. I think that's been moved up to Class C. It was originally classified as Class D, but it's had a class change. So now the battle is having with Brian Chandler. He's formerly in the class. He's just gone sweeping around the outside under brakes into Rocket to take the lead from the chrome and purple MX5 Mark IV. Early class leaders as we go on to lap 3. Liam Crilly leads the way in the BMW Z4 number 12 in Class A and overall. Class B is being led by the number 53 Paul Bancroft, red kind of Audi TT Cup, the BRSCC spec Mark II Audi TT. That's coming 4th overall. Brian Chandler has just lost the lead at the moment to the Colin Gillespie Will Beach Porsche in the Class C lead. That's on the 115 Porsches in the lead. Class D leader is the Stacey and Cameron number 19, which is the Andrew Stacey and James Cameron. So they're leading their class in the Mini Cooper. So excellent stuff for Major James Cameron.
And it's James Cameron driving that car, so he promised me. So he's lost none of his racing. Hasn't done any racing, I think he said, since 2017 or something like that, or 2021. I don't know. He certainly hasn't raced for a number of years. Last time he was out within a catering, so coming in very much as a one-off here. I think it's the actual reason for him racing is that he didn't want to do the biathlon of foolishness, and doing this was a good reason for him to get out of doing the race at biathlon of foolishness. We can go down to the pits because Rob Lewis is there. Rob, who have you got?
Unfortunately, one of the early victims of the bit of a schmozzle to do with the oil down in the first few laps. Car 848, Matt Crozier. Matt, you are going to get back out in the car. They're just sorting out with a new wheel. What happened?
It was just because we got the concrete dust out from the engine pop earlier. The whole pack is moving over, and it just, if you're on the outside, you're either on the grass or you're on the marbles and the dirt. And it was just, I couldn't stop the car. It was picking up the rubber and the dust, and I just ended up collecting some on the way through, but it was really unfortunate. It was not the sort of interview I wanted with you, to be honest.
You really wanted a bit more of a winner's interview, but
we had such a good qualifying. We were up in, I think we were third in class, and you know, it was just something that I really wanted to do well here, so it's my favourite circuit.
Right, before I get kicked out of the way, I'll let you get back in the car and crack on, but the team are just getting a new wheel on the car now with an inflated tyre on it. That's the important part. George Grant looking on for us as well in the paddock, sponsoring the Race of Remembrance this year, but Matt Crozier getting back into the car to get back out. He's got some grounds work to do, but the cement dust already causing some issues this early in the race. Back up to the commentary team.
Okay, thanks very much, Rob, down there in the pit lane in the thick of the action. Liam Crilly, meanwhile, goes on to his 5th racing lap. We're into the 8th minute of the race now, so not that long, about halfway to the pit window being opened. Still Neil and Lloyd Huggins sharing the Lotus 6 in second place, 6 seconds now adrift in second place. In third place, good little battle going on there between Adam Morrison and Paul Bancroft's Audi TT, just about nose to tail there. Adam Morrison for the moment holding the Audi off, and then next up is the Andrew Dyer Audi TT in 5th place, just ahead of Will Beach in the Porsche box to them on the 115, and then just behind the pair of them is the track Spec Mini Cooper, which is being driven at the moment by either Adam Kindness or Craig Dillon. So that car beats up into 7th place. Brian Chandler is next in the Mazda number 76 in 8th, and then Paul Hoggins Audi TT in 9th place, with Ben Walkinshaw's VW Sirocco in 10th.
We mentioned the Class E. There's a nice little battle developing there between 19th, 18th and 20th position between the top 3 in class. And that is the Adcocks, who are stalwarts of Clubsport Trophy, as Matt Crozier's car now with a re-inflated tyre gets back out into the race, out of the pit lane. So that's currently between the Adcocks, who are former BMW Compact Cup racers, and their old BMW Compact Cup car, and that currently leads the class, but it's battling away with one stalwart of the class also, which is the Cogswells, and their wonderfully unique kind of BTCC period inspired liveried Nissan Almera. You don't see many Nissan Almeras racing these days. And then we've got Jordan Pimley and Mike Close. Jordan Pimley was vice champion last year's 2023 Mazda MX5 Club Championship. Become sporadic rounds this year. Mike Close, of course, has been experienced in Mazdas too. I think they're currently in 3rd place, and they're separated between them by about 2.2 seconds across the board between them. So they keep pretty close between them, particularly the fight for 2nd place in class. The Adcocks currently have a lead, and that's a bit of a reprieve for them. In fact, they're just coming onto the screen now. We're on the pit straight between these 3 cars. They've got the Cavan Taylor Class D Renault Clio just behind them also. That's the battle that's doing well. I think the Adcocks actually will be glad for the restart, because they had to spin up at the complex just before the red flag was thrown.
Another car to look out for, Scott, is going to be the George Wright, VW Golf. Remember that car had the moment down at the bus stop a couple of laps ago when the car just ground to a halt and George had to fumble through trying to get it to restart. He went down to 23rd place, I think it was you said.
Yes.
He's got up to 14th now, so he's already made up 9 places, and he's now challenging the Elliot Novovilsky BMW Z4, so looking to make up more places, so he's lapping more quickly than 3 or 4 cars ahead of him, so has more ground to make up. Meanwhile, you spotted...
That was the Adam Kleiner's Craig Dillon Mini that's gone off the road. That was from 7th position, so whatever happened there to that car, that's gone off at the hairpin, because it's now going down the back straight towards the bus stop. So that's just coming to the final corner now, but definitely just sliding its way around a little bit. He had to, wasn't quite, maybe had some dirt or mud on its tyres that caused it to have a little bit of a wiggle through the final corner.
Coming down in 9th place then, the 155 Adam Kleiner's Craig Dillon Mini Cooper. And so he lost 3 places. He was 7th down to lost 2 places, was 7th down to 9th with that moment. George Wright meanwhile moves up to 13th place with the VW Golf, so he's made up another position on that lap. We are 3-4 minutes away from the pit window opening, and then, as I say, it will be a matter of strategy for those teams to come into the pits that want to come in early on. Others may be leaving a little bit later, but it's down to the teams to decide when they come in. Whenever they come in, the pit stop is a mandatory 2-minute one from pit in to pit out, and there are penalties for going under the minimum pit stop time, 30 seconds added to your race time plus however short you were on your pit stop, so it has cost. In fact, it has changed the outcome of Club Sport Trophy races in the past. I think the last time I had at Silverstone, Adam Dyer kind of lucked into the win because the car in front of him made a short pit stop.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter how short the pit stop is, it's 30 seconds plus literally how much it is. So it could be half a second, 2 seconds, 10 seconds, doesn't matter how short the pit stop is, it's default 30 seconds plus the time you have to make up. This is the intriguing battle on track watching on screen. This is the fight for 3rd place. It's 3rd place in Class A, but the Class B leader. This is Adam Morrison in that fast starting K20 engine, I believe. Mini Cooper is making a wonderful noise as it heads its way out of the right-hander, the church, and now onto the back straight, with Paul Bancroft in, I think it still is mostly an Audi TT Cup Spec machine in 4th position, ahead of Andrew Dyer in class. They're 1st and 2nd, respectively, the 2 Audis. So you see, cocks a rear wheel in towards the concrete. You can see on the top that car's pretty stiffly sprung on the rear because just lifting its inside rear wheel as it turned through the first pass of Rocket. So these 2 cars fairly evenly matched, both front-wheel drive. They've now passed, that's the Peugeot 206, that's the Trevor Hancock number 16 Peugeot. It's racing for a while, another car that's a regular in the Armed Forces Challenge. Making their way now through the corkscrew off onto the international circuit, as we are now less than 2 minutes away from the pit window opening in this special ROR Club Sport Trophy support race. We'll see who decides to dive in first when that pit window opens.
Yes, I suspect that the leading runners will leave it a little bit later if they can, unless we do have a safety car, and then we'll see a whole gamut of them coming in. The screen showing the Nissan Almera there in the middle of its little battle for 18th place between the Cogswells in the Nissan Almera and the Adcock brothers driving in the number 88 yellow BMW Compact. That's Philip and Matthew Adcock, and the Nissan Almera in the hands of Daniel and Stephen Cogswell.
I believe it's, I think it's father and son. I think Philip's the father and Matt's the son, I believe, if I'm not correct.
Right.
We've got actually a 3-car fight here, because right behind them is the black and yellow MX5s you can see there of Jordan Pimbley and Mike Close. This is now the fight for the Class E honours. It's the best supported class in the RMR this weekend, race this weekend, because 16 Class E cars this weekend. It's been boosted by some of the Mazda MX5s and a couple of the regular City Car Cup cars as well. This is the closest map on the track.
Into the pits has come the Track Scotland Mini Car 155. This is too early to be a routine pit stop, so this is a car that had a new engine fitted, or at least a engine repair. They've sent out for more engines in Track Scotland, and they've been working very, very hard on that car. But unfortunately for Track Scotland, it looks like a return of the problems for the 155 car. Adam Morrison's car, they ran very strongly indeed. This is also a Track Scotland entry, as you say, with the K32 spec in that car, but currently running in third place with Track Scotland with the 155 car that they're hoping to run in the Race of Remembrance itself as well. But Adam Kindness then moved 155 into the pits. Because the pit window is not open, or wasn't open at that stage, that will have to come in for another stop in order to complete its mandatory stop before the end of the race. Pit window though is now open, so any further pit stops happening will now be within the window and can be timed as 2-minute pit stops. That stop for the Adam Kindness car, dropping it out of the top 10 and elevating into the top 10. Ben Walkinshaw, who is now 9th, and then the genetic E20 of Simon Frauen.
Just noticed a bit of change for second place in Class E on the screen there. So the Jordan Pibley Mike Close MX5 has gone past the Cogswells in the Nissan Almera, so a bit of changeover in that battle. And they're only just ahead of our race leader, Liam Crilly. So he's come to put a lap on them. So he's essentially lapped everyone up until 18th position or so, right behind them and the Captain Taylor Renault Clio. As you say, pit window is now open, so we'll get our first couple of pit calls very shortly.
And the two that were battling come into the pit lane together as well. The Adcox and the Cogswells, the BMW Compact number 88 and the Cogswells Nissan Almera number 20 coming into the pits absolutely together. Meanwhile, the battle on screen continues between Adam Morrison's Mini and Paul Bancroft's Audi TT, 56 from 53, or 86 from 53 in third and fourth places. So the time pit stop taking place and a whole fleet of other cars coming in as well there, including Paul Bancroft out of fourth place. Yes, Scott?
Bancroft in the Hamer and Stevens car that had that spin on the first stop. Whoops, that's the Mazda 2 that's gone for a rotation. That's car 18 that's spun up at the corkscrew. So that is the Lewis Warren Connor Woodford 2 Racing UK Mazda 2. Those cars usually appear in Clubsport as well, but it was in that car's gone for a little light rotation. Well, he goes once again. Front end bonnet is off on the Kindness car, so I'm afraid that might potentially, that's got the main piece of its cup race being done. Not going to go any further anytime soon.
So that's double bad news, because that's a car that's due to take part in the Race of Remembrance as well. Adam Morrison certainly pushing on with the Mini there, as Minis tend to. We're talking about popping that right, the inside rear wheel, the left rear wheel, just in traditional Mini style there. That car, as it went into the left-hander or rocket in.
Novobilskis have brought their BMW Z4 in. Several Z4s that have, I think, I'm sure they're ex-Z car spec that have now found a new home in Clubsport. Every time we've had Clubsport Trophy races throughout this year, there's been about 5 or 6 or 7 of them that have popped up in the same class.
Somebody else goes off at the bus stop there. That's the 500 Mazda MX5 of Jordan Pibley and Close. Was the Class E leader. I think he still does lead the Class E cars as a result of it, despite that grassy moment. Just carried too much speed into the bus stop and ended up having to understeer straight on.
Noticed the pit stops were finished for the 2 cars that came in that were leading the Class E battle, which is the Adcox and the Cogswells, and they both come out and no change in the order, so Adcock is ahead of Cogswell.
I've got a clever screen here. Scott tells me the pit stop times. 2 minutes 0.285 for the Adcox BMW, 2 minutes 1.495 for the Cogswell Nissan Almera. So nothing to choose between them, but what perfect timing, 2 minutes 0.285. Relatively short pit lane here at Anglesey, so you haven't got quite as much of a calculation to do, but you have to get your timing pretty accurate to come through as close to the 2-minute minimum as that. And I would say that cutting it a little bit too fine is 2 minutes 0.285.
But it's legal pit stop.
Absolutely, and they can be very pleased with that. And as I say, once the cycle of everybody having done that pit stop, Bill, I think it will put the Adcoms in very good position indeed to take the Class E win, especially with Jordan Pimley taking to the grass as he did on his last lap through. He did a 1:53 as opposed to 1:50, which would be the normal sort of time for. But here comes Jordan Pimley into the pit lane now, having scared himself a little bit last time around.
Whilst that's happening, you see on the screen here we've got the invitation class Ginetta. We don't normally have Ginettas in Clubsport usually, but for this one race it's in as invitation purely just for the spirit of the race. So I'm throwing hand over to Mark Despong, who apparently on his helmet takes the vote for Pedro, whoever Pedro is. So, there you go, bit of a quick question for whoever that was. Anyway, RC map continues on. You can see there, Cogswell getting back onto the tail of the BMW, but this is now key in terms of if these two can make their way through any traffic they're going to get through, although ironically Class E cars, lapping cars and passing cars that are going technically quicker than them in terms of a higher class, it's quite interesting. So that's the pace that they're setting at this point in time.
Yeah, both of them with different drivers aboard now as well, of course, having both being two driver entries, so getting used to the conditions in this early stage of their stint, as well as having to have the battle between them. And I fancy the BMW might just be making a bit of an escape from the Nissan as they went up to the left-hander at Rocket in that time.
I'll say that Cogswell and Almira was pushing. You saw as it went through the first part of Rocket, the rear end was just hopping around as it tried to rotate the car through the first part. So again, another car that's fairly stiffly sprung. These two will push on. The key thing is going to be in terms of where these cars end up by the time the Pimley and Close MX5, which is going to be pitting right at the top of the pit, and then about here, at the top end here, how quickly that can complete its pit stop and where they're going to be in relation when it comes out to the in stop, so it can carry on its battle for the second half of the race.
Into the pits comes the Huggins Lotus each out of second place, but we can go down to the pits because Rob Lewis has someone else to talk to. Rob, what have you got for us this time?
Well, I've had a chat to a lot of the drivers that are coming in from the cars, and they're talking about grip levels actually not being too bad. I've got Simon that's just jumped out of the lovely Ginetta G20 there. First of all, you don't see many of them out racing anymore.
There's still a few knocking about, but yeah, they're starting to get a little bit rarer. Luckily, Mark, the guy who's co-driving with me, supports the cars, so he's got no excuse for not being quicker than me. But yeah, there's still a few.
So you're donned in the beautiful Royal Air Force Motorsports kit, so you're going to have a busy weekend ahead. Am I right in saying these cars running on sustainable fuel?
Yes, the cars we're running in the main race are, yeah, an Audi TT running on vegetable oil and an MX5 that I'm in that's running on synthetic petrol.
Plan to go that way with the Ginetta?
Well, if the price comes down a little bit, because I'm putting the fuel in that one, it's different for the T-Bone cars.
So the race overall for yourself, how was it that first stint with the oil down?
Yeah, it was. I mean, the first lap is always carnage anywhere. Slightly tricky going up to Rocket, and luckily the guy in the Scirocco ahead of me did an amazing job of holding it. But yeah, after the sort of stop and restart, it actually wasn't too bad. Nice day.
So the cement dust doing its job?
Yeah, absolutely. Although it did, I think quite a lot of my lungs are full of it right now. It's perils of having an open car.
So what's your job now? You've done the Clubsport Trophy race. Hopefully get a good result in that. What's your role in the race of remembrance later?
Well, firstly, biathlon of foolishness. So go and jump in the sea, and then jump in an MX5 and start the main race.
Fantastic, I'll let you crack on.
Thank you very much.
No worries there. So lots of pit lane activity coming up and down the pit so far. I haven't seen Liam Crilly yet, and because he's a solo driver, I can imagine he's going to want to duck in at the absolute last minute. He's probably praying for a safety car. That's the only thing that's going to help out the front runners to get a bit more of a gap in this race. Lots of pit activity going on at the moment. I'll throw back to the commentary team and we'll see if we can speak to a few more of the drivers.
Thanks very much, Rob Lewis down there. And yeah, the leading group, the leading 10 cars, we've only had one of them making their pit stop so far, that being the Huggins Lotus Exige. A drama though for Adam Morrison with the Mini, number 86. Remember that car was up in third place, a time in the pits for him of 1:59.186, so he's less than a second short. But it is crucial because he is short, so it will be a penalty at the end of the race for Adam Morrison's Mini, I'm afraid. However far up the field he manages to get, I don't think he's quite on the pace with Liam Crilly or with the Huggins Lotus Exige, but Adam Morrison adding to the misery of Track Scotland there by just mistiming the pit stop.
Yeah, in fact, actually, TSL are on it straight away as well because they recognise it too. They've actually put a red exclamation mark where his, unlike his status column, so it signifies that he is going to get a penalty because of that. You're absolutely right. Here's Ben Walkinshaw, who is another one driver that was lucky to survive the spin on the fluid after the Alex Smith Honda Integra dropped it on the first start. And in terms of that Class E battle, I'm going to keep an eye on the change that we've had. So the current leader at the moment is Simon Waterfall's Mazda MX-5 ahead of Chris Fantana in his MX-5, but it's a different one. And in fact, yeah, there it is confirmed on the timing screen. 31 seconds to be applied at the end of the race for a short pit stop for Adam Morrison. So guilty as charged. There he is. And then they come down the back straight. There is I think that's the 19, which is that's the Stacey James Cameron Mini, which is currently still leading Class D by about almost 30 seconds from Cavan Taylor. He spent most of his race chasing the 3 Class E leaders. In terms of that battle, at the moment, it is Adcock and Cogswell, those 2 cars quite far ahead of Pimley. They are still technically a net first, second and third in class, but the time that they've gained, the 2 cars here, the BMW and the Nissan, over the Mazda MX-5 is quite measurable because they've got quite a sizable gap on them by the time they come back around.
Yes, out of the car already then is James Cameron, the car number 19, in 19th place, but leading its class, as Scott was just saying. So Andrew Stacey has now taken over behind the wheel of number 19. It was quite a long pit stop for the Mini team. I'm not quite sure whether it was James taking his time getting out or Andrew getting in, but they were 2 minutes 22 on their pit stop, so will have lost some time as a result. Anyway, we can go down to the pit lane because Rob Lewis has someone else.
So he's been all year running lots of these Mark 1 MX-5s as close racing. I've got Mike Close here. He's just jumped out of his Mazda MX-5 and handed over the keys to Jordan Pimley. Mike, first time out racing this year, I understand.
Almost, yes. I did call Cadwell in the BMW once, Super Cup, but it's first time back in the Mazdas. It's nice to be back in something you can really chuck around.
And there's something quite special about coming to Anglesey at this time of year to participate in any way in this event.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm ex-forces myself. I did 9 years in the Reeby, so it's amazing to give back to the charities that are helping lads out when they're coming out, lads with difficulties. So it's amazing to be here.
So talk us through that race start. Bit hairy at the start. How was it for you, kind of back in the pack?
Yeah, so well, you say back in the pack, but in with the E classes. Yeah, it was a good start. Never done a rolling start before, so that was new to me. But two laps in, and someone decided they didn't want the contents of their engine all up the hill towards Rocket, so that made a bit of carnage. Yes, that was awkward, and then we got a red flag and restart. Got a second chance at getting that rolling start going. Got this one a bit better. Got the gearing right this time and made our way through the pack. The second race started well. There was a bit of a tussle at Rocket, so managed to sneak a few places there. I think I came in first in class at the point. I handed over to Jordan, and he thinks he's quicker than me, so we'll see how good he goes.
Well, I did say the glutton for punishment for Jordan being quick, as you had to come on here and talk to us, so thanks for chatting to us. And the family here working away this weekend because, of course, wife Lindsay looks after the Clubsport trophies, so she's beavering away in the background.
Yeah, she never stops, bless her. The kids are always bugging us for coming down here, but she works hard. But she's not working hard here, she's working me hard at home, so yeah, why not?
Fantastic. Well, Mike, enjoy the trip out today, and any plans for the rest of the race?
I'm going to watch the rest of the race, hope Jordan brings it home with a golden trophy, and then I'm in with the Citroen C1s helping run one of them, so yeah.
Fantastic, good to see you, Mike. I'll let you get sorted out.
Cheers, buddy, always a pleasure.
Thank you. Always good to talk to Mike Close of Close Racing. We've got the Team Air Supply Golf in as well. We noticed that had a bit of a tussle there earlier on, the NJM team just getting the tyre pressures and everything set up on that. Don't forget, pit stops here, minimum 2 minutes you've got to be in this pit lane, so it's not so much of a rush this time, but still that pit work is key. You've got to get that car in and out in 2 minutes. There's a bit of a skill to it. For now, back up to the commentary box.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, it's not just a matter of doing it in 2 minutes, he's doing it in less than 2 minutes, and Liam Crilly has gone out again, having done his pit stop in less than 2 minutes. So he's done a 1:58. So Liam Crilly is going to get a penalty, Adam Morrison is going to get a penalty, and a battle on Scott for your favourite Class E cars between the Nissan and the BMW Compact.
It's the most populated, in fact. Whilst that's happening, sadly, the Hamer and Stevens cars pulling up. That's the Mini that had the spin on the first start earlier on, so that, I'm afraid, is pulling off the road with the issue. But yes, they were side by side, exiting down the back straight towards the bus stop, and then side by side across the line, separated by the chasm, the chasm of a margin that was just under 0.2 of a second as they came across the line. The Cogswells now have taken the lead of the class. They were just ahead, but Adcock BMW was up the inside, and now it is advantage Nissan ahead of BMW. The third place car in that class, looking at lap time, has just set a personal best on 1:48.166. The pit window has now officially closed. If you haven't made your pit stop, that's tough.
Well, not quite, because the way the rules work is you are allowed to pass the pit window closed forward at the start-finish line. But you're right, the official pit window has closed, but if you don't have any radio communication and you're relying on the board, then you're allowed to pass the board once, and then you have to make your pit stop. But in effect, that means the one that we've not had in yet is Paul Hoggins. He's not made his pit stop. Andrew Dyer is in the pits at the moment in the Audi TT, and provided he does a legal pit stop of over 2 minutes, he is now sitting in the box seats, which is exactly how he won the race the last time the Clubsport drove him down at Silverstone. And he's experienced at doing this. But both Liam Crilly in the BMW and Adam Morrison in his Mini are both facing 30-second plus penalties for short pit stops. So it's an Audi 1-2 in the race, with Andrew Dyer leading and having done a pit stop of 2 minutes 0.9. So Andrew Dyer cut it very fine indeed. Paul Hoggins now comes into the pits at the very last moment in his Audi TT number 58. So he's being shown at the top of the screens as being the race leader. But as I say, he's in the pits. Andrew Dyer has just left the pits, having done a legal pit stop. Then in third place on the timing screen is Liam Crilly's BMW Z4, car number 12, but that's facing a 30-second penalty. Then we've got Adam Morrison's Mini in fourth place on the timing screen, but that also has a 30-second plus penalty. And then we've got Paul Bancroft with his Audi TT next up in car 53. Then it's the leading Class C car, Colin Gillespie sharing with Will Beach. We think Will Beach started it, with Colin Gillespie having taken over in number 115. He leads Class C ahead of Brian Chandler's Mazda. And then in 8th place is Belton Walkingshaw with the VW Sirocco ahead of the Ginetta G20, which is now in the hands of
Mark Despond.
Mark Despond, yeah.
Just noticed as well, another car's had a penalty applied to it, the 117, which is one of the McGregors, and their Mazda MX5. The 117 is Robert McGregor, and he was about a second short. He's got a 31-second penalty applied to his time as well. And ironically, even though on the timing screen it says we've got Crilly second and Morrison third, unfortunately that will now become, well, on track versus second. Unfortunately, we have to now ignore those cars because they're not in contention for the victory anymore. They all slip down the order. It means we are pretty much looking at, depending on how quickly they get out on track, it could be looking, I think, even possibly an Audi 1-2-3 if it works out that way. The Hoggies can turn that pit stop around quicker.
Well, it depends how far ahead Liam Crilly can get, because Liam was leading by 15 seconds at the half-distance mark when he came into the pits, so he could well overcome his penalty. We'll see what happens with that. More news down from the pit lane, though. We've got Rob Lewis down there. So, no, right. So, no, we don't at the moment. So, we're looking at the last, 11 minutes of the race still to go. The VW Golf of George Wright, remember that car had its problem earlier on and was down in 23rd place, now up to 10th following a pit stop of 2 minutes 02, so he managed to get a legal pit stop in, but George Wright then continuing to look to make up places. He should be able to do so. Somebody else is off though. Scott. It's a white roof, you can see on the screen.
My initial thought was because it was in that pack, maybe the Porsche, which if that's the case, that's a shame, because that car was running sixth, it was leading the class. So
Colin Gillespie's car, the 115. car.
The game I like to play in this case is spot the car that goes tumbling down the timing screen. So if his car does start moving down the order, then unfortunately that's his car that's had the problem. But at least any car I can see that's got a white roof and is that low slung. So unfortunately, I'm afraid the Porsche might be the one that's hit trouble. I'm afraid, and that is the case. It's a real shame because that car was running pretty strongly. And Gillespie was trying to give it a really good finish, which means now Brian Chandler, if that's the case, will now inherit the lead. And those two were having a fight early on in the first start between the two, and early on in the second start. So yeah, in fact, good look at the timing screen. I see the Gillespie and Beach car is going down. It's lost a couple of spots.
Yeah, so Brian Chandler going through then 5th place overall in the lead in Class C.
Yeah.
And yeah, with the 115 Porsche Boxster then definitely the one that stopped out on the circuit. Meanwhile, Liam Crilly's lead at the front of the field is actually 45 seconds.
Wow.
So he has overcome the penalty, which will be 31 or 32 seconds. And so despite a short pit stop, Liam Crilly's lead is not secure by any manner of means, but with less than 10 minutes of the race still to go, Liam Crilly has a 45-second lead over the Mini of Adam Morrison, which is in 2nd place, shown on the road. Of course, he has a penalty as well, and the next car back is Paul Bancroft's Audi TT, which is nearly 50 seconds behind. So Paul Bancroft, although he's the leading car which hasn't been penalised, hasn't been penalised enough, or rather the leader, Liam Crilly, hasn't been penalised enough to enable Paul Bancroft to take the lead. He'll take 2nd from Adam Morrison, but he won't be able to take the lead from Liam Crilly, who's been storming through the field with his BMW Z4 Coupe, and as I say, has established this lead of now 47 seconds over Adam Morrison, 53 seconds over Paul Bancroft.
The reason why he's a multiple Clubsport winner in the past, because he's done this before and certainly put on quite a fine display in that machine. Whenever that car turns out on the Clubsport grid, you're wise not to bet against it, because it certainly can be and usually is in the mix for victory. See the Trevor Hancock and Ian Cooper version 206. You can see a 206 on the grid. It's been chased down by the Christian White Matt Mills Mini Cooper. Down towards the hairpin. We've got just under 8 minutes to go now in this RR Clubsport Trophy Support race before the main event that starts roughly around about 3 o'clock. So in about roughly 2 and 3/4 hours time.
Liam Crilly going through, completing his 21st lap, lapping that time 1 minute 41s. His best lap was a 1:38.9, but still lapping quickly enough to extend his lead over Paul Bancroft's Audi TT, which is in 2nd place once we take account of the penalties, and then Andrew Dyer, who will be in 3rd place once the penalties are taken. The big loser in terms of the penalties is Adam Morrison's Mini number 86, just going through now across the start-finish line, and with the sole tyre cross on the roof of the car, but Liam Crilly then turning through there in number 12, in the lead of the race with the BMW Z4, looking very good indeed for what could turn into a win. We've got a yellow flag out on the circuit somewhere, quite sure for why, but withdrawn again.
On that Class E battle, which actually has risen quite nicely up to 11th place overall, which is not too bad for Class E cars, given they are the sort of the perceptively the slowest cars in the field with the lowest power to weight ratio. Matt no more than about 105 brake horsepower per tonne, I think. That's battle between Cogswell and Adcock. The Cogswells and the Adcocks, it's currently 1.5 seconds, no, 2 seconds maybe now. But now in the Nissan's favour, so it looks as though the Cogswells might be on course to, at the moment at least, with 6 minutes to go, pick up a victory for the Nissan. And I have to say, there's a couple of cars that do this quite well. I think another car is very similar in this kind of livery. Shout out to Alec Townley, who races in the Fiesta ST 150 Challenge. He has his car adorned in the kind of Rapid Fit inspired blue and yellow Fiesta. Of course, this one, of course, is the very same as the 98-99 livery that the Primeras ran by Ray Mallock, which the association this weekend. There's a rather lovely, almost like a retro mod kind of 250 GT small short wheelbase GT looking machine, which is, I think, has got some RML involvement by the looks of it.
Yes, it was. It is actually based on a Ferrari, as far as I know. It served as the safety car at the Silverstone Historic Festival, or the Silverstone Festival, if it would like to call itself nowadays, and made certainly that Festival of Historic Sport very special indeed. Brian Chandler has just turned in his best lap of the race so far, in 5th place in the leading Class C car and the leading Mazda MX5, and he is the only, well not the only, but he's the last car not to have been lapped by Liam Crilly, who is now on to his 23rd lap with less than 5 minutes of the race still to go.
Just a good thing to point out, and obviously looking at some of our YouTube comments watching, it's good to have people watching on YouTube. I have to give a shout out to a fellow commentator and a friend of yours of mine, Dave Goddard. So hello Dave, but he pointed something out that good spot, man. We did actually quite spot it. The Neil Lloyd Huggins Lotus apparently didn't reappear from its pit stop, and because of that, it's been missing since the pit window opened. Essentially, when it made its pit stop, so it's now firmly out of contention. And it's all the way down the order in towards the bottom of the field.
Yes, 36th place. And as Dave points out, that car made its pit stop and then didn't reappear from the pit. So it was whether it came in on schedule or whether they came in slightly early, not sure. But it only completed 13 laps and is not circulating at the moment. So the car wouldn't have challenged, or it could have challenged, because it was less than 30 seconds, or it was around 15 to 20 seconds when they made their pit stops. The gap first to second. Adam Morrison pushing on as well with his Mini, car number 86. He's just done his personal best lap of the race at 141.789. Just looking at that battle you were talking about, Scott, between the Coxwells and the Adcox, the Nissan and the BMW, separated now by 1.2 seconds. The best lap of the race set by the Adcox BMW at 2 minutes 0, compared to the Nissan's best lap of the race, which is 2 minutes 1.4. So there's over a second separating them in terms of best laps, but the driver at the moment of the Nissan seems at least quicker than the BMW as they cross the line and complete another lap.
Gap's still about 1.2 seconds. They had the 155 Mini in between them, but lap time wise as they came across, very similar, both on 1 minute 48.2. So in terms of pace, very even. So it looks as though that it takes one small slip up from the Cogswells and the Adcox, and we're straight onto their rear bumper again. They've only got 2.5 minutes to go here, so only about roughly a couple more laps, 2, maybe 3 at a stretch, depending on how quickly the leader can get around.
And another position made on that lap by George Wright's VW Golf. He moves up to 8th place, so making the best of a bad job, 23rd to 8th for George Wright in the VW Golf. He's got another 10 seconds to make if he's going to catch Ben Walkinshaw, and at the moment he's not lapping as quickly as Walkinshaw's Sirocco, and with less than 2 minutes now remaining in the race, that's going to be too much of an order, I suspect, for George Wright to make any further places, but still I think 8th place is going to be as good as he's going to get, but still a good performance from him.
We're checking on class leaders, so Liam Crilly of course leads Class A overall with the BMW Z4, Class B being led by Paul Bancroft in the Audi TT. Brian Chandler firmly 5th place now, now that his main rival of the Gillespie and Beach Porsche has pulled up between Rocket and Peel. He now leads in 5th position in the Mazda MX5 Mark IV. Class D in 13th overall is Stacey and James Cameron, so looks like that it's going to be Andrew Stacey and James Cameron in car 19. So a good effort from them to put themselves into the class lead. In Class E, we know that battle's going on between currently the Cogswells and the Almira.
And they've closed right up again.
They have.
Scott, with the traffic they had to battle with, so the Cogswells been a little bit hampered, I think, by that traffic, and the Nissan now coming under pressure from the BMW. Got the better of the traffic through the target as they went out of the off the start finish line up towards the banking.
and I think this might be the last lap of the race because the leader came across the line with about roughly 1 minute 20 to go, and the lap times are in the 1:30, 1 minute 40s, and the leader's now making his way up toward the Rocket Complex under braking. So I think it's the last lap of the race.
Absolutely, I'll agree with that, Scott.
And so that means that this is now, if the Adcox want this to happen, they're going to have to push. You can see the Cogswell's flashing the headlights on the Almira. Move, get out of the way, I've got to lead to try and defend here in the class. But the Adcox are going to push as hard as they dare. Can't see the last lap board's gone out at all, so maybe not. Oh, it has gone out.
No, it has gone out. The board is perpendicular to our view here, so very difficult to see. Just see the white board.
I see it now.
From end on. But Liam Crilly then making his way around this final lap of the race with the BMW Z4 Coupe up at the hairpin at the top end of the Tom Price straight. At the moment he'll turn through the hairpin and then back down past the old pit lane, comes down past the old pit lane now, coming into the bus stop turn, the final turn, onto the start finish line. Here he comes then, Liam Crilly, to take the checkered flag and defend the win that he has. He's got a lead of 55 seconds, will mean that even with the 30 seconds applied, he will still turn out the winner, but it will be to second place man Paul Bancroft's Audi TT rather than Adam Morrison's Mini, which is coming through now. But also coming across the line is the Nissan Almera then, so the Cogswell's just making it to the checkered flag with the Nissan Almera ahead of the BMW Compact number 88, finishing in second place in Class E by less than a second. There's 0.8 of a second separating them at the checkered flag. But a good class win then for the Nissan Almera, driven by Daniel and Stephen Cogswell. George Wright comes home there, finishing in 9th place in the end. He lost out on the last lap, in fact, to Neil de Sprong in the Ginetta G20. There goes Adam Morrison in second place now, only now, finishing ahead of Paul Bancroft. But Bancroft then inherits second place as Adam Morrison takes the penalty. So the official finishing order is first number 12 Liam Crilly in the BMW Z4. Second and winning Class B is Paul Bancroft's Audi TT. Third and second in Class B is Andrew Dyer, car number 15 in his Audi TT. Finishing in 4th place, will it be? Yes, it will be. So finishing in 4th place, Adam Morrison's Mini, following its penalty. Finishing in 5th and winning Class C is Brian Chandler with the Mazda MX5, and then one lap behind is Paul Hoggins with his Audi TT, car number 58. Winner of Class A, B, C we gave you. Class D was won by Andrew Stacey and James Cameron in the number 19 Mini Cooper. James is going to be insufferable now. Somebody throw him in the ocean.
He's got to get ready for the Biathlon of Foolishness now, isn't he?
Well done, James.
If he is.
Yes, well done, James and Andrew. Then in the winning Mini Cooper S in Class D, and then the Daniel and Stephen Cogswell duo in the Nissan Almera taking victory in Class E. The only other car being in the invitation class being the Ginetta G20. Lovely to see that car, actually. Car you don't see very many of these days. Car number 83, finishing in 8th place overall. But great race, and I presume that we're going to get some presentations down there. I can see Rob Lewis there in the middle of the winner's circle, and ready to talk to our race winners. So Liam Crilly then, a bit of a hiccup, the winning margin in the end, following the application of his penalty, being given as 29.279 seconds. So he would have won by a minute, but for that penalty for the short pit stop. And we can talk to the race winner, courtesy of Rob Lewis.
And I'm here in a Parc Fermé. The brakes on this Z4 are so warm. very nice and toasty. That was a hard race for you. You still won by nearly 30 seconds with the time penalty. How was that for you?
I guess it made it interesting, didn't it? I told myself to just take it easy, but I just tried to squeeze everything out of it as usual.
As usual, the car has been absolutely phenomenal for you this year.
Yes, it's been great. A few little tweaks this year, you know, a few more horsepower, a little bit more aero, new brakes, and it's all helping.
Now, Robin Welsh, I can't tell you the contents of this message that was put on the whiteboard, but a certain special message, come on Robin, a certain special message was put out on a whiteboard for this man to tell him about the penalty, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a little bit. If you've seen Le Mans 66, it was a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction based on that. I saw he had a penalty and didn't realise how clear he actually was at the time, but I know he had someone in reserve, so I thought, let's just get rid of that attitude for now. And then, yeah, he was 20 seconds clear, so we were all good. But yeah, it was go like Cluck.
Yeah. Well, basically, give it some jandal, I would say, Liam. And were you aware of the penalty yourself before Robin put the notice out?
No, I knew I was super close exiting the pit lane. I thought I just clicked over 2 minutes, but I'm guessing it was less than half a second.
Probably a bit more than that. I'll let your team tell you.
Well, then I don't know where the speed limit line is, then, do I?
Well, congratulations, Liam Crilly, a worthy overall winner, and he takes the Class A honours. Let's have a little walk around. You can see just how vast and varied this grid is. I need to find an Audi TT in second place, the Bancroft car. Let's have a little wander down, because there's so many cars in this race of different shapes and sizes. Somewhere in here is an Audi TT, car number 53. We are having some audio issues actually, which is a bit of a shame. Actually, that looks like that's taken a bit of a... I'll speak to Mr. Scott Woodward actually just for a second. So we're just, unfortunately, Scott, you've just sprinted down from the commentary box to join us, doing your bit for the BRSCC. We can't go and speak to the other drivers because unfortunately we've got signal issues. But what a race that was!
Yeah, that was pretty entertaining. I think the battle of the race was in Class E between the Cogswells and the Adcocks, and there was running side by side at the end to kind of give a thumbs up to each other. That was a pretty strong battle between them. Really nice, strong entry. I think also a story of the race was James Cameron taking victory in Class D, which, as Paul said on commentary, he'll be insufferable now for the rest of the event because he's won the class. But no, it's good to see him looking pretty good. Of course, I'm not sure if he's doing that instead of the biathlon instead, but if he is doing it, then fair play as well. But yeah, it's fantastic. It's a testament to how good Clubsport Trophy is. It's been fantastic all year. Great grids, lots of great variants in cars. You get the same types of cars with different specs all the way through. It's been another great season for Clubsport. Massive grids where they've gone, and obviously more the same for 2025. And there's going to be, if anyone likes that, but in sprint format, there's a new version of the course for next year, which is going to be the Production Cup, which is pretty much essentially a sprint version of the Clubsport. Maybe focused slightly more towards the hot hatches in that sense. Can't speak, but. Yeah, it's going to be another mega year for Clubsport. Their calendar looks good for 2025, and I anticipate it's going to be just as good as it has been all year long.
Absolutely. We'd like to bring you some more drivers to talk to, ladies and gentlemen, but unfortunately we're just going beyond the range of all the receivers.
If I can try and figure them out, do you want me to try and be a random pick?
I think I'm going to send Scott to go and pick up some drivers for me.
I'll have a go see if I can find who I can find.
He's going to grab some drivers.
I don't know all their faces, so I can't wait.
He is. But it just shows you that the Clubsport Trophy, you've got all eras of cars here. You've got everything from a Honda Civic Type R, like the Benjamin Griffiths VTEC direct built car here. You've got the humble Citroen C1. This is in a City Car Cup spec. So you've got the 15-inch wheels. You've got a very basic standard Citroen C1. So you could pick up a car like this and get your first entry into endurance racing, 45-minute races, in a car as cheap as this. You could pick these up for about $4,000 now. Phenomenal cars. The Honda Civic EP3 Type R as well, more powerful, that being Class B, C, if you really want to pump some chilies into it, up to Class A. And then you look at the likes of Liam Crilly's beautiful BMW Z4. Outstanding. Class A, it's had a lot of love, a lot of care, and a lot of setup put into it. But you could probably still pick up a car like this for very reasonable money. So, kind of proves that the Clubsport Trophy, it's not all about spending all the mega bucks. If you pick the right car with the power to weight, get it right, the regulations are just, you can really get yourself a good car going. One man I need to speak to, actually. You would have noticed the Nissan Almera out there with sort of a family vibe about it. Yep. So, Dan, you've been racing in that car for several years now.
Yep.
It's one of the only Nissan Almeras racing in the Clubsport Trophy grid?
Yep, the only one racing in the UK from what I know. Yeah.
How was that race for you?
Hard work. Yeah, Matt and Phil in the E36 compact gave us a real good battle. My brother had a smashing start. He had a good battle the whole first his stint, and yeah, swapped over and straight back into battling. Really hard fought race. Good fun.
Really hard fought race, and the Almira proving to be capable, being even though it's such a rare car.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've been running it for what, 7 years now, so we know the car quite well. We know how it works, and yeah, we're just pushing it further and further.
Fantastic. I'll let you crack on. We've got